Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Constance the Reader, and today is going to be a little combo video. I'm going to do October Reading Wrap Up Part 2 and November TBR, not the books that I want to read for nonfiction November. Obviously, I already did a video for that. So these are the ones I want to read that are not nonfiction. Also, happy Halloween. Hello. I hope everybody does something fun. I am not, unfortunately. I don't have plans. My plans will be to sit on the sofa, maybe take a little edible, and just go to sleep because I love sleep. It makes me so happy. So without further ado, let's get into the books I read in the second half of October. First up, I read Camp Carnage by Joshua Winning. I rated that 4 stars. That was actually a really good little slasher book. It wasn't, I wouldn't necessarily call it a novella. It was fairly short though, but like, let's be fair, most slashers are short. They don't need to be that long. This is about a group of kids ranging in age that go to a summer camp back in the 80s that has basically been turned into like a conversion camp type thing, conversion therapy camp. So there are young kids coming here to this religious camp so they can, pray the gay away. And it has a very interesting cast of characters. This author did not care about killing people that I personally thought were going to live, okay? Which made me end up liking the book even more because I did not expect particular people to be alive at the end of that book. But it's basically about a group of kids. They go there. There's not really a main character, so to speak, although I think the kid's name is Billy, who we are first introduced to, who you feel like is the main character. But it's a bunch of different POVs. And this is like taking place in the span of like a week of them being there. He's in the camp with the boys. He meets Jewel, who is, no, not Jewel, Jem. Oh my God, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. I'll put it up somewhere. Jem. It's Jem because her real name is, okay, I get it. So he becomes fast friends with Jem. She's in the girls' camp, and it's a combination of like funny stuff, kids getting to know each other, 80s references, and then murder. Okay, so somebody is in the camp and they're murdering the kids and the adults who are involved in this. And the motive of the person, I think, is fairly obvious, but at the same time, I think that it was a really well done slasher book. So I definitely would recommend. I rated that 4 stars. Next, I read Clown in a Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives by Adam Caesar. That one I rated 3 stars. So I did not listen to this as an audiobook like I did with the first book. I kept hoping that it would be put as an audiobook on Hoopla, but it just did not happen. So I got the physical book from my library because I just felt like I don't necessarily want to buy this book because I don't know if I'm going to like it. And I really enjoyed the audiobook, but do I want to use an Audible credit on it? In the end, I'm glad that I did not physically buy this book. 3 stars for me is not bad, but it was not as good as the first book, in my opinion. I almost kind of felt like, I could have done without it. This basically takes place a year and some change after the events of the first book. So it is Quinn and Rust and Cole are the 3 like survivors of that main like kind of senior class of the first book. And we are seeing them navigating their lives a year after everything has happened, where I think the year anniversary may have already passed at this point, or it's coming up, something like that, but it's getting back to Halloween basically. And Quinn's off at college, Rust and Cole are doing their own thing together, and the town is trying to rebuild itself. So Quinn's dad is the mayor, some of the people who were involved in all the killings, like they're all trying to work together to do stuff. And then we have another character, which of course I can't remember her name, but she's the younger sister of one of the girls that was killed in the first book. So she was a kid who was at the massacre. She wasn't supposed to be there because it was only supposed to be seniors that died. So she was like, I don't know, a freshman or a junior at the time. So what has happened since are all these conspiracy theories. And people outside of the town, obviously, don't believe the story that's been put out. So I think the story that was put out was that basically not what happened, not what actually happened that night. to a certain extent. Then some people have a conspiracy theory that that wasn't true and the adults did not turn on the kids, that the kids were really the killers, and Quinn, Russ, and Cole are evil. They're just murderers and they're covering up from them. So there is this movement to expose the truth of what happened in Kettle Springs. And while I did find that interesting, I felt like the way that the story kind of unfurled, it's a slasher book, so not everything has to make sense, but I did think that the mob situation really made no sense. They're trying to bring the truth out and get justice for people's families by possibly killing the kids. I don't see how that actually makes any sense. I don't see how killing people in the town is going to make the truth come out. It's just going to bring about more killing. But I guess when you think about it, does anything have to actually really matter to people like this? Not really. And I was wondering if the author was kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but was trying to like have commentary on maybe like January 6th situation of like this mob mentality happening and people believing in this lie that certain things were stolen that weren't, and now they have to bring to justice. I didn't know if that's what he was kind of getting at. I might look at some interviews, but it was okay. I never will read that one again, but I would definitely listen to the first one again if I had to. Cole became a terrible character, hated him, did not want to have anything to do with him, loved Quinn still, cried at the end. I think that was why this ended up not being just 2 stars for me. One of the big reveals at the end shattered me. Oh my God, it shattered me so much. And if you've read it, I think you might know what I'm talking about. Basically, someone ends up being guilty, but we didn't know until the very end. That got me to cry in my car. What else is new? I cry in my car a lot when I'm reading. It happens. Next, I listened to Cultish by Amanda Montell, which I listened to it, but I have the physical book behind me, and I didn't even think to pull it out, but that's okay. 5 stars. Fantastic. Personally, I find cults interesting. I will be the first one to say, and I don't care what anybody says about like, oh, you can say, no, I know for a fact a cult could not get me. Several reasons why. If it's run by a man, I'm not going to, no, I can't. Sorry, if it's a white guy, I'm not following a white guy. Not gonna happen, okay? Definitely not happening. If it requires me to spend money, no, you're not getting me. I'm sorry. You can't tell me that I have to pay you all of this money to be closer to what? Not happening. And then anything involving, I've got to sleep with someone, especially some old Grammy ass man. It just wouldn't happen. I'm sorry. I ask too many questions. I'm quick to say no. And I for sure will not be following a man. So cults just, I'm sorry. You can't tell me what I know about myself. I know that I'm not going to be caught up in a cult. Sorry, period. That's not to be rude to other people, but it just wouldn't happen to me. But she discussed a lot of cults that I actually already knew about. Some of the more sadder ones like Jonestown, a lot of people don't know a lot about that, which is crazy to me. But, you know, I get it. And then some other ones that are like the cult of some yoga studios, Soul Cycle, CrossFit, the way that you can see certain things that they do in cults like Jonestown or, what were they? Oh, what was that one with the Children of God? Maybe not Children of God. I'm thinking of the guy and they drank the Kool-Aid and had the suits on and had the whatever, because I thought they were going to be transported into space or something. Can't remember that one. But the way that they did things in those cults, which seem very extreme because they are pretty extreme, you know, depriving you of sleep, lecturing you constantly, taking your money, beating you down, making you dependent, and in all of this leader, completely stripping you of who you are as a person, and then sometimes even having the group itself turn on you. So you can see that in some things that don't seem like a cult, right? So CrossFit, or exercise things. The way that basically she interviewed this one woman where she was talking about how she realized that if she didn't post a certain thing, if she went on vacation and she didn't check in, or if she missed the gym, the people within this group would berate her and would be cruel to her, you know, which is something that happens in cults sometimes. So with all that to say, I definitely think that it's a really good read, whether you are someone who is like knowledgeable of some of like the main cults like myself, or you're just kind of, I don't know, maybe interested in it or getting into knowing more about that. I definitely think it's a really great nonfiction book. Also one that you could definitely read for Nonfiction November. It's free on Hoopla if you want to listen to it. I would definitely say listen to it as an audiobook because it was very, very good. Okay, now we're getting into the books that I own. Ooh, did not mean to hit the glass. Terrible. Anyway, let's get into this one. So I finally read I Am a Hero by Kengo Hanazawa, the first omnibus. I believe there's a second omnibus, but I don't know if there's any more than that. This was definitely interesting. I rated it 3 stars. It had some really intense looking panels in here that were so scary. So this doesn't give really anything away for you to see this panel, so because you don't know who that is. But basically, I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. I'm so bad about that. But I mean, I did read a lot of books, so don't be mad at me. So this main character, he's a manga artist working in this really, really, really tiny like bedroom studio with like 4 other people, and he is definitely interesting. I mean, he's described as a mentally unhinged manga artist here. And he sees things, and I'm not sure what that's about. They don't really get into why he sees things in the very beginning of the book, but stuff starts to happen through his everyday life. And I will say, like, the first half of this book is really slow, or this manga. It's really just getting to know your main character, seeing what's going on with him. He had like a fairly successful manga really early on. It fell off. He seems to be making this like super perverted manga with this group. So there's a lot of pervy stuff going on in here. He feels like he is the main character and that he should be the main character, but oftentimes he's not. He's dating this woman who is definitely abusive. And he feels very inferior to other manga artists. She's a manga artist. There's a lot of stuff going on, but eventually there is a zombie outbreak, and besides the fact that he does have this gun, like, he definitely is like a bumbling fool throughout most of it. He doesn't really understand what's going on. It's wild. It's very interesting, very, very gory, lots of body horror. As you saw in that one panel, it was very gross. It's crazy. It's definitely good. So, you know, like I said before, 3 stars is not bad. It's kind of in the middle. I definitely would read the second one though. And I think that this was good for Halloween, you know, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to read Junji Ito. I can't do it. It's too gross. Body horror, I can only take a little bit of it. So what I saw in this was not bad. It didn't involve some of the things that are triggers for me. So this was good. I could handle this. Please don't ever suggest that I read Junji Ito because I can't do it. It's just too much for me. But this was good. This is a good compromise. Next, I read volumes 1 through 10 of Tokyo Ghoul. I've previously watched the anime and thought it was really good. It's nice to have gone back and read this though, because there's a lot of stuff that I forgot. Basically, we have our main character, Ken Kaneki. He's living in Japan, and its humans are coexisting and not very well, but with ghouls, and ghouls eat people. Everything's broken up into different like zones, and in some zones ghouls are running amok. They're just killing willy-nilly, and then in some, like the ones that Kaneki is in, it's a little bit better. You have some ghouls that, you know, run amok, but for the most part they're trying to live a certain lifestyle to where they don't have to kill to survive the ghouls, and they can just kind of like live a normal life. By, you know, some events, this human Kaneki ends up becoming part ghoul, and then he now has to kind of adjust his life to, you know, I'm half ghoul, I'm half human. He doesn't really want to eat people, understandably, but if he doesn't, he'll die, or he'll kind of turn feral, is from what I understand. He's kind of making friends. He's seeing the divide between humans and ghouls, which is like clearly, obviously, you know, if you have a situation where we're both killing each other because we're killing each other, right? I'm killing you because you killed a ghoul. I'm a ghoul and I killed you because you killed a ghoul. I'm a human. I'm killing you because you killed humans. Obviously, no one's going to win in this. He is trying to find like this weird balance, and it's actually really good. So obviously I haven't finished the whole box set. There's 14 volumes in this box set, but I really like Tokyo Ghoul. Another one that I think is good to read like during the Halloween season. Does have gore, does have blood. It's also a really good anime. I haven't decided if I want to read the prequel though. There is another box set, but I need to slow down on box sets, okay? I'm literally have some sitting here. If I stacked the ones that were over there, it would be as tall as me. So, gotta slow down. So yes, Tokyo Ghoul has been good so far. And lastly, I finished reading Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is the second book in the Foundry Side trilogy, and I rated this 4 stars. I thought it was really, really good. I have my issues with it in some ways. I do kind of feel like I don't think it would have hurt for it to be a little bit shorter, because some things got a little bit repetitive. But in general, I actually like this for a second book in an adult fantasy series, because what I've noticed for me and why I feel like I've fallen off when it comes to adult fantasy is that sometimes the books that are in between the first and the last one kind of feel like a throwaway. Like I didn't need this to exist for the story. It just kind of feels like filler. And I didn't feel like this felt like filler. Definitely was really good. Had me on the edge of my seat. The ending had me crying in my car. What else is new? I do that quite often when I'm reading in my car during work. But this was really, really good. So this takes place 3 years after the end of the first book. Santia, Gregor, Bernice, and Orso they've set up their own campo, and they are working in Foundry Side, trying to do what kind of Orso wanted in the beginning when he first became a scriber. He wants to make the world a better place. Unfortunately, when it comes to scribing, which is the magic system, you know, there have been great advancements that have helped people, but of course, the same tool that was created oppresses people, which is, you know, much like the world we're living in today, correct? They stopped the big bad thing in the first book and realized that something worse is coming and could possibly stop the progress that they're trying to make in this book. At the end of the first book, Santia has changed. She can control her sight now. She can use her hands to see the scribing in buildings and then change them. So how she worked with Clef, who was the key in the first book, who could trick scribings into, you know, so the way the magic system works for scribing, you could make a door that won't open unless the right person comes to it and has a particular key or a little token that says you can come through. And that's really great. So it's supposed to be impenetrable. But what Clef and what Santia can now do is they can trick the scribing, which kind of has like a weird sentience to it. It's not like a human, but because it's been given instructions, it's constantly thinking, no one can come in here. No one can come in here if they don't have the key. No one can come in here if they don't have the token. But what they could do is they could trick it and to say, okay, well, how about, what if, okay, so you can't open unless someone has the token. Did anybody say that how long you had to wait for opening again before someone had a token? Well, no, that doesn't really make any sense. So basically they confuse it into, okay, well, you're not supposed to open like a regular door out, right? But couldn't you open in? Stuff like that. So there's certain instructions written to it. They can confuse it, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, the big thing that was like made out of all of this was Crusaders. He's the one who kind of like made all the things that people took to make scribings. He is apparently back, And the thing I liked about this book is this like philosophical question, which we eventually come to learn might be the big thing, is if you could end all human suffering, poverty, starvation, slavery, assault, you know, the thing within people that make them want to keep stepping above other people. If you could change that, would you? If it meant that some people had to die. With these huge inventions that scribing can create, sometimes it takes a death to do it. And that's kind of the question in this book that's going on. And that's where Sanchi is in the middle, kind of being used by two different, I guess you could say gods in a way, Valeria and Crusaders. Who is right in this situation? Who will cause more destruction? Who should she trust? What's really happening to her? And so for that, I definitely think that for a second book, this is really good. I think it actually does a good job of having that. And then now it's going to push us into the third book, because now we're going to see how it really ends. Whereas, like I was saying before, sometimes the second, third book in a series, like, it's just so much filler that, like, did I really need it? It could have been tossed out. I could have passed it. I don't feel like that is how it is with this book. I thought this was really good. So 4 stars for this. I cannot wait to finish the series. It's going to be definitely bittersweet. I'm also thinking about maybe seeing if I can get this as a paperback and sell this, because I don't really like hardcover fantasy books, but I got this when it first came out. This was the only option. So we shall see. And next is going to be the books I want to read in November. So what I'm listening to on Hoopla right now is Sweet Hand by N.G. Peltier. I did a poll or asked a question on Twitter about like what would be a good book to read for the book club pick of the month that I have with my sister and my mom for November. So it's my pick. I really wanted to do a romance, because we'd read like a nonfiction. Actually, we'd read 2 nonfictions in a row, I think. And I wanted to switch it up. So that was recommended to me by Tome Raider, reads by Mel, or reads Mel. And I decided, you know what, okay, let me look it up on Hoopla. And it was free on Hoopla as an audiobook, so I've already started listening to that. I can't wait to finish. And then the second recommendation was If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. I cannot remember who recommended this one, but I've seen a bunch of other people on, like, that are mutuals on Goodreads, you know, choose this, and it looks really good. It's a plus-size main character, which relate me? Yes. This is about a young woman named Cindy. She's a shoe designer. She's living her life in New York, going to Parsons, but she has not lined up anything after graduation, so she kind of has to move back home. A few years ago, she had a death in her family that really rocked her, and she hadn't realized before she left New York how traumatizing it was for her. Obviously, it was the death of a family member, and she's just kind of like bottled up inside, had a bad year, hasn't found anything after like Parsons and everything, so she's having to move back home, and she's just gonna, you know, do her thing. She's moving back in with her stepmother and then her stepsisters, which the one thing I started reading this, I will say, I'm loving the relationship with the family so far. I really, really like that. I'm glad that it doesn't seem like there's any, you know, drama, knock on wood. But basically her stepmother is an executive producer for like a reality dating show like The Bachelor. And from what it seems like, basically her stepmom kind of convinces her to go on the dating show. Now, I don't know, because I'm not going to read the back. I don't know if it's The Bachelor for women, like she's going to be the main character, and then all these guys are going to be, you know, or The Bachelorette, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know if it's like The Bachelorette or if it's like The Bachelor, but I am definitely interested in reading this. I think it's going to be really fun. I also saw this for free on Hoopla as an audiobook, but I think I might actually just physically read this. I will say though, this is like less than 300 pages, and when I saw it on Hoopla, I noticed that it said it was only like a 3-hour read. I was like, okay, excusez-moi. Next up, I will be reading Killer Kung Pao by Vivian Chen, Steaming Hot Homicide, the Noodle Shop Mystery Series. I can't remember which book in the series this is. It might be book 5, but I'm ready to get back into it. I took a month off from the Noodle Shop Mystery. I'm ready to get back into it. I don't know what this book is about. I haven't read the back. I'm just going to go into it blind. I'm fine with that. I also want to listen to the second book in the Blood and Ash series, Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. As I've said, I listened to this thick-ass book. I do not physically hold it in my hand and read it. That's why I think I will be able to actually get through this. So I'm sure we're just kind of dealing, oh, there's new people afoot. So I didn't read the back of this. You know, we're following Poppy. She may have been kidnapped. A lot's going on. And then we have these 3 books. I'm sure I'm going to pick up some other stuff too along the way. We'll see. So anyway, Shorefall, you know, that was one of the books that I made a video about, all of the fantasy books that I own that I haven't read yet. And then I was going to stop buying fantasy until I read these books. So I'm doing actually a really good job. I made a pretty good headway through that. So the next one I actually really want to read is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. I've heard a lot of really good things about this book. I really haven't heard anybody say they didn't like it. So that's good to know. But yeah, don't really know what it's about. I really, really don't. And I'm not going to read the back. Well, okay, I might read the Dust Jacket at some point, but you know, we'll see. I want to go into it blind. I just want to, you know, be in the mood, do my thing. And then the next 2 books, these are Book of the Month Club books. I'm trying to decide which one I want to read between the 2, so maybe you guys can help me. The Last Flight by Julie Clark and The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. So I read a Riley Sager book in the month of October and I didn't like it. This is one of the earlier ones though, so maybe I will like this one. I feel like I've heard people rate this highly, but because I have so many Book of the Month Club books on my TBR, I figured, you know what, I should probably start reading the ones that I bought early on first. This is one of those books. So I feel like I'm inclined to read this one because I've owned it the longest, and it's short. It seems shorter than The Last Time I Lied. So we will see. But if you've read either of these books, do you suggest one over the other? Tell me what you thought of them. Is this one of your favorite Riley Sagers? If you've read Riley Sager, please let me know in the comments. And yeah, there you have it. So that is my October reading wrap up and my November TBR. Please watch my nonfiction November video with some suggestions if you want to participate in that. And if you care to know what I want to read for that next month. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. I'd love to know. I'm also going to be reading some other, you know, manga, but I figured, you know what, we don't need to talk about that. The video is probably going to be long enough anyway. So thank you so much for watching. Okay, if you have any thoughts, let me know down in the comments. Please feel free, talk to me, talk at me, whatever. If you like the video, please like the video. If you like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on other social media. I post every now and then. More than now and then, I post. But yes, thank you so much for watching my video. Have a good day. Goodbye.